Alright, so we are now gonna go ahead and get into Night Slayer versus Xnor. Let's get it going. Night Slayer rocking the quartermaster in the south, while Xnor rocking the common folk up in the north. Looking at the compositions, we do have Xnor rocking the Squall with the Cam Falcon, Boar, and the Mine. Well, Night Slayer is going to be going for a Squall of his own, but instead we get Falcon, Skunk, Cam, and Wolf. This is going to be obviously clearly a more aggressive, probably a long game composition for Night Slayer compared to Xnor, which is a more aggressive type of playstyle. And speaking of aggressive, we do see that Xnor is going to, well, Night Slayer is trying to be a gremlin and try to take out Xnor. We do see the mine being used there as a way to counter. Very interesting way of doing that. I mean, it makes a lot of sense considering the fact that, like, Night Slayer positioned that to be somewhere in the corner. So, good defense there for Xnor. Meanwhile, Night Slayer does decide to go for the full 8 farms. And it looks like he's going to be aggressive as well, trying to do some cheesiness as well. And we're going to see mole versus mole action, as moles will be coming out for Xnor first. And he does get the quick sell. So now Night Slayer is going to go ahead and put in these tier 2 in the camps and the squirrel up. Meanwhile, Xnor is going to go ahead and just go flat out all squirrels for this one. So it's going to be intriguing to see what happens. And is he going to go for another cheesy again? Yeah, he is planning a cheese again. Oh my gosh. This mad lad. There's no way he's going for this, right? I don't think he is. No, he's actually going to go for it. This is some spiciness coming from Xnor. I like it. So right now, Xnor is waiting for his squirrel units to come in so we can go for a battle, but it may not work out because the cam is now out and about, and I don't think that it's going to work out very well, as the cam's going to go ahead and put in some work, get rid of all the moles, and now the cleanup for Night Slayer is going to come out, and Xnor is going to have to retreat here. So great defense from Night Slayer. You figured that it wasn't going to work out, considering that Night Slayer had a lot of his units on the ready. And it looks like going to go ahead and go for another pair of cams, as Xnor is going to go ahead and add a squirrel and a cam of his own, trying to prepare. But Night Slayer is starting to build up a lot of his tier 2 units. So when it comes to the teching, Night Slayer is really just doing everything right so far, trying to counter a lot of the aggressiveness that Xnor is trying to play out. So Xnor is kind of is playing from behind a little bit now, as we do look at the army value. They are evened out at the moment, but it's going to take some time for Xnor to build everything to his liking, especially with Night Slayer being almost completely done with his tier 2, as he's only waiting for one more Falcon and the rest of his skunks to come out. Now, Night Slayer is looking to probably be a gremlin of his own, as he does see the one base only being there. He might be falling for a possible trap, or is he just going to go ahead and try and do some damage? But I think he understands that Xnor is on the ready, so he does decide to just go back home and not have to worry about it. So he will buy his second mill, as well as start to continue to build up a lot of the tier 2. He sold a majority, almost all of his tier 1 already. So I would imagine that he's going to go for a wolf pretty soon, but it looks like a battle may or may not commence. It honestly depends. Now, of course, Xnor is kind of in a bit of a bad spot right now, because there's literally no no mills ahead of him at the moment outside of this one, and it's so far. It is incredibly far away. So he's gonna probably have to start building a lot of units over in this area, so that when he starts moving on from this, he doesn't have to wait for his entire army to get to where he is. But now it's looking like we might see a fight commencing. Okay, well maybe not. As Night Slayer does decide to just walk on back home, start building up his economy a little bit. But the cams are trying to look at a snipe, but that's not gonna go very well. As Night Slayer is gonna put down a couple of one mole as he goes ahead and go for some abuse. Does take out a pig. A fight is gonna come out, and right now Night Slayer is just getting bodied so far, and he is gonna have to go home with his tail between his legs. But he's going to end up losing all of his major units, and Xnor is primed for a possible attack if he's able to go ahead and get rid of these camps early, and he does do just that. And now it's just the tier 1s fending off, and Xnor will get the first fight as he's up 1-0. All right, time for game number 2. So, rocking with the KSR, we have Night Slayer over on the southeastern position, and Xnor rocking with the Common Folk up in the northern position. So, we do see a little bit of a change up for Xnor, I believe. Well, really just a switch in tier 3. I don't think he had the what's the word? The Badger. I don't know why I keep forgetting the name Badger. In the previous comp, I might be wrong because I have short-term memory loss, but you know, no one cares. But in any case, we do have Xnor rocking the Squirrel with the Pigeon, Falcon Cam, Badger, and we don't really see a change for Night Slayer here, as he's gonna be a little bit aggressive, gonna be an aggressive fella with the Lizards coming in early for Xnor, and I'm sure Xnor's gonna go and try and prepare for this, because instead of the moles that Night Slayer had last time, he's gonna go ahead and aim for the lizards, but he is gonna go ahead and go for a squirrel. But the lizards are now coming and are on the way, and he's gonna try and counter them with the moles here, as we're going to see one pig go down. We're going to see a second pig possibly going down. No, barely surviving there. Was looking to try and keep that one alive, as we do see other other lizards trying to come by. And again, literally no health left. The pig is still rocking. What a trooper, dude. Oh my goodness. So only losing one pig is probably the best case scenario in that situation, especially with the fact that, like, the moles are not the most ideal unit to defend, and I learned that the hard way. But so now Xnor is possibly trying to look for something to try to protect himself. He is able to keep the Warren safe, and I'm pretty sure that this might be the last attack with the lizards here. Warren does go down. So another Warren loss, but that's all we can really get when it comes to the abuse with the lizards. But it looks like the lizards are going to go ahead and take out this campfire first and foremost. So, with that in mind, it really, the losing the squirrels is not too bad. Especially with the fact that, like, it's really more so a tempo loss than really anything else. Because, as you can see, the army for Xnor is definitely big. Especially with the fact that he's now put down his tier 2. The income is essentially the same. But now we see both sides deciding to bring out cams into this mix. Meanwhile, Night Slayer is really trying to take his time, trying to build up as much tier 1 units as possible. Does get the squirrels out completely. And now the Badger is coming out for Xnor to see if he can try and end this early. And Night Slayer will be seeing it. And very interesting choice. He does decide to sell the Badger, figuring out the tier 3, possible tier 3 attack, as Night Slayer is looking to try and prepare for it, getting a lot of tier 2 to buy. So obviously he's going to go try and scalp this to see what he's planning. He does buy a campfire on the way. And now, Xnor, now Night Slayer is going to see that the tier 3 is gone in this case, but he is going to go ahead and stick with what he has. So right now Xnor is, I believe he is a little bit ahead in economy. Well, not really. The campfire is going to come into play here, but he still doesn't have a second mill. So, well, no, he does have a second mill. Did he just buy that second mill? Where is that? Hold on, am I crazy? Oh wait, no. Does the campfire count as his own mill? I guess it does. Okay, I mean, whatever. It's fine. But yeah, Night Slayer is going to only have just 1 mill compared to Xnor's 2. Well, the campfire is good to have, especially late game. It only counts as 1 farm. And while yes, he does have the campfire to possibly be good for base race purposes, it's not going to be used as much else. So, Night Slayer is possibly going to look for a strong composition, as I will say that Xnor does have the advantage here because the squirrel count is insane. And he also has a good amount of tier 2s. However, I might take that back because of the amount of tier 2s Night Slayer has that can easily wipe a lot of the tier 1s down. And right now, this could be looking like Xnor to win the fight. The campfire goes down, and it's really looking like a very scrappy play for Night Slayer to try and take this, as we now see Warrens being targeted. Reinforcements are not really helping out for Night Slayer. It's looking like this is going to be Xnor's game, as he does take number 2. Alright, let's go ahead and dive into game number 3 for Night Slayer versus Xnor. Will Xnor get the sweep, or will Night Slayer be able to take one on crunch time? So, rocking the KSR, we have Night Slayer on the west side, while Xnor on the east side, rocking the common folk. So, looking at the compositions, not much has changed for Night Slayer this round, still sticking with what he got. Meanwhile, Xnor changed it up a little bit, going for the Squall, Chem Falcon, Boar, Mine in this case. So Xnor doing a very excellent job here, just really taking a good control of being in the lead of economy, as well as taking up our army. So far, you've really just handling yourself very well, as both players are going to go for the Gentleman's 8 and just kind of await to see what happens next. So with that in mind, we do see that we're going to see some cheesiness over for Xnor, as Xnor does have the mole still, and we do see some squirrels coming in, but it's going to be too little too late, as we do see a quick sell, and Xnor does do that pretty good. So nice little pacing strat, as Xnor does put in all tier 1s. Meanwhile, Night Slayer decided to go ahead and go for the tier 2, tier 1 combo, as Falcons and Squirrels are going to come into play. Ooh, excuse me. So, for Xnor, his response is going to go ahead and get the cams involved, as he does try to get the more superior squirrel count. We do see that the KSR has gotten... Well, the KSR, Night Slayer does see the fact that the cams are coming out. I'm sure he's going to look... He's actually going to look into buying a second mill already, instead of going to buy a third warren for his squirrels. And I think Xnor might be looking to buying one himself. He does have another set of squirrels on the ready. He is going to buy another mill. And Night Slayer is probably going to have to starting to farm up and does get the cam 2. So he's going to rock with 2 2-2s and the two warrants of squirrels. So right now we're seeing the cliff abuse happening with the one falcon, but he decides to opt on to go home. Not going to worry about it too much. Meanwhile, Xnor is just continuing to tech up as much as he can. He will have the same amount of cams and falcons, but the squirrel count is the big difference here that could pretty much put it into Xnor's favor, because Night Slayer is really being very greedy, honestly, going to farm up a little bit more so than teching up. So that could spell a little bit of a disaster there, because the boar is now coming out, and Night Slayer will see it just about automatically, I believe. I believe he saw that already. Yes, he has. So the boar now coming out, Night Slayer decides to respond by putting down the wolf, which is right here. So both players are just trying to go ahead and try and get an advantage from one another. But I will say, even though the buffed wolf can be great, I'm still worried about the tier 1 count, because right now for tier 1, Xnor has 18 filled with both squirrels and moles. Meanwhile, for Night Slayer, he's now pretty much bringing up the mole count a little bit, but he only has half the amount of squirrels that Xnor does. We do see that I assume that a warren was sniped. I believe that warren was sniped. It looks like. So Night Slayer once again down to only 1 mill. So he's in a bad position right now, because he doesn't have the amount of count for tier 1, really, but he does have quite a good amount of falcons to play around with, but I don't think it's going to be much. It's interesting to see how this happens, because the boar is now out as well. So the boar is out, the wolf is now coming, but we're going to see some early tags with the flamethrower by the boar, and Night Slayer is just on the run right now. He's on the run. Xnor is looking to probably get the sweep here, as he follows him all the way home, and now the piggy is coming in, getting the big explosion, and it's looking like that Xnor will be taking this one, as the army of Xnor is becoming way too overbearing, as all he has left is the 2 skunks and a falcon. But it's just not looking to be enough, as all the units are now going to be down for Night Slayer, and that's pretty much going to do it, as Night Slayer is desperately trying to sell off as much as he can, but it's not going to be enough. He's going to tap, and we will see Xnor getting the sweep 3-0.